Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson. And it's the history that, the average so-called white person, even some of you Jakes you don't want to comprehend, because you stuck in the slave mentality, slave minded. But we rule back then, we will rule again. What goes up must come down. So I'm gonna get into this short video. I'm gonna get into this lesson.
Named black on account of their black complexion. Charles II reigned as King of England, Ireland, and Scotland during the 17th century. Pubs across England called the Black Boy are generally named after King Charles II. It was a nickname coined by his mother because of the darkness of his skin. Henry III reigned as Holy Roman Emperor and King of Italy and King of Germany during the 11th century. Because of his dark skin complexion and his dark beard, he was called Niger, the Black, by his contemporaries.
And that's what you get the word nigger from. That's really how you say it. So the original word nigger wasn't a bad word. To the so-called white man, reshaped the word to make it mean something negative. But the original word nigger is what we've been calling ourselves. There wasn't a negative connotation to that. Because when you go into Acts, it's that chapter 13, I'm going to show you that. The pronunciation is not Niger, it's nigger. All right?
Thomas Butler ruled a region in Ireland called Ormond during the 16th century. Thomas, who was called from his dark complexion the Black Earl, succeeded his father in the earldom and estates at the age of 14. Dub was the king of Scotland during the 10th century. We see one of the black people, the Moors of the Romans, in the person of a king of Alban of the 10th century. History knows him sometimes as Kenneth, sometimes as Dub, and sometimes as Niger. Kenneth III was king of Scotland during the 11th century. A son, however, of the dispossessed Kenneth, or Dub, known too as Kenneth Mac Dub, regained the kingship in the year 997, reigning until 1004. He is termed the Don or Brown from strong Duncath, and since Don implies a lighter shade than Dub, being in fact dun or tawny, it is probable that Kenneth, son of the Black, was of white blood on his mother's side.
And I actually got a book right here. Well, I got several books. Matter of fact, let me grab one real quick. Give me 1 second. Matter of fact, the name of this book is called The Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isles. And author, Dr. John Johnson. Matter of fact, in one of my lessons, I'll go into this book. And it's a lot of heavy information in here. A lot of rulers. Matter of fact, let me go to something real quick. So-called black rulers, that's what I meant to say. So this, I'm trying to find Kenneth Dub. And when you go into a lot of these names, that's why it's very important to go into the meaning of words, because a lot of these names mean so-called black people. Kenneth, okay, this is Kenneth the nigger Dub. And I'm going to actually show you in the Bible that it's pronounced that. They're going to show you that we the same people, ain't nothing changed. It says Kenneth the nigger Dub. It says the Christian Moors, and these words that they interject in the English language is all confusion. It's newspeak. So he was an Israelite. And when the word Moor, because a lot of these unlearned Jakes call themselves Moors. When you go into the word Moor, it just means so-called black. It's not like a race, right, per se. It just means so-called black. So let's get into this. Converted, Pictish, King Kenneth the nigger, Black Duffy, the great-grandson of Kenneth Mac Alpine, ruled Scotland from 962 AD to 966 AD. The triumphant king ruled 3 provinces in the Scottish Highlands. He was the first of the son of Malcolm Salakia, the first of MacDougall, Salakia. And he was killed, Salakia, he was killed by devotees of his third cousin, Cullen. The Scottish Chronicle of the Kings of Alba, Scotland, and the historian John Fordon called Kenneth the Nigger. It says Kenneth's pure Negro Moorish blood continued to flow in his veins, Scottish and British rulers. And it goes on and on. It's infinite amount of information that I can go into. But let me get that Acts. I think that's chapter 13. Give me 1 second. All right, let me get into this. Acts 13 and 1. Now there were in the church, there was in Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Nigger. I'm going to prove that that's what they're saying. The pronunciation is not Niger. That, that's why they said today, to take away from the truth. So when you go into pronunciation of this word, there's nothing new under the sun. Check this out.
Strong's G 3526. Niger.
Nigger. Right here, they even got it right here. Nigger. That's why Jacob used the word today, like they'll say, "What's up, my nigga?" It wasn't that negative connotation that's there today. The so-called white man actually took what people called you and made it out a derogatory term. What we used to call ourselves. And that's why Jake subconsciously used that word today. It's not a bad word. It's been relabeled as a bad word. That's what people don't know. So let's keep moving. But you've seen all this history come out that our people are ignorant to. And let me go to this. I went into this a long time ago in this other book, Nature Knows No Color Line. That's a heavy book. And I'm going to be doing lessons into that book as well. And also lessons into this book. The name of this book is called The Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isles. I advise you brothers and you sisters to get this book. Matter of fact, I'll do like a book. I'll go through some of my books again and show you the books I got in my arsenal. And you can pick these books up. Right, so right here, you got all these rulers and the so-called white men and say these people were slaves. What slaves with crowns on their head? You know what I'm saying? This what Jake ruled all so-called Europe, and Europe is the name Europe is New Speak. Right? It actually comes from a so-called goddess, Europa. And the so-called white man is literally the devil in the flesh because they have cognitive dissonance. You bring this information out, they act like this don't exist. First, they'll start gaslighting you like we making this up. No, this is real history. Just because you haven't not been taught this history don't mean it ain't the truth. That's another misconception. People feel like just because they haven't been taught something that it ain't the truth because we bring it out. And this is just this facts, this receipts. So families, I'm reading this at the bottom. It says families with names of Negro origin. Upper Highland. It says Portuguese, German. Right here, all these coats of arms. These are nobility, so-called noble families, the so-called black rulers that in which is Europe today. French, Dutch, Belgian families with names of Negroes. Right here. It says German at the bottom. Note the Negroes. So Jake was ruling all so-called Europe, and the Edomites, so-called white people that had no influence. They was actually pushed into the Caucasus Mountains and they was actually slaves. Right? It says right here. So like, let me go back. British families. It says the Moors of Yorkshire. Check this out. You can screenshot all this. Let's keep going. And this from the book right here. These inserts are from the book Nature Knows No Color Line. So when I first came into the truth, that was one of the first books I got, and that's another heavy book. But you'll never see this in no mainstream history, so called. You never see any of this. That's why they give you the narrative that you was running around Africa butt naked And that's why they give you the narrative that you so-called African. They don't want you to know this information because this will empower you. They want to keep you in a slave mentality. So when they give you the narrative, you would just run around Africa butt naked and they had to civilize you, right? That's just to control the narrative so they can hide all this history. But you keep telling lies long enough, it becomes the truth to people that's not, critical thinkers. And this goes on and on. Let me go here. And this other book, like, you know what I'm saying, way more information in it, but this is some of the inserts. All right. And Maurice, the name Maurice that's how it means so-called black because the name Maurice goes to the name Moore, right? And there's a lot of other names that you'll be very shocked that mean so-called black people. Because if I'm not mistaken, the name Donald, it goes back into meaning so-called black. Again, I'll do a lesson into those names to verify that. But basically, names mean a lot, right? And it goes on and on. So let's go here. So we're not making this up. We're not gaslighting you. We're not just making things up as we go. No, this is the truth. You just have not been taught it. And it's hard for somebody that's been brainwashed and indoctrinated, even so-called white people. You bring this information to them, they'll look like they give you that 1,000-yard stare because they can't refute the evidence. So what they'll do is start to demonize. First off, denial, demonize, and then discredit. That's the order, right? It says Luke 8:17. A lot of you jakes are you drunk with this Babylonian wine and it got you all intoxicated and you don't think you was ever anybody. That's done on purpose. Luke 8:17. And like I said, this was just a lesson. I was actually studying some deep history. And I was like, man, I need to get something done because time was just going by. But I'm just gonna warm you up into other stuff. I'm bringing lessons down the road. Luke 8:17. For nothing is hidden that should not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known and brought to light. That's what we're doing, whether you can believe it or not. Now you can think that this is all in your imagination, but you the fool on you. And a lot of jakes, you can show them proof. Hell, your Howard Shah can come back and appear to these people and tell them everything. Your Howard can come down. They'll still never believe it. So you can't never do enough for some people. They just gonna stay bugged out. 2 Thessalonians 2:8. And then shall that wicked be revealed. So it's wicked. It's a wicked thing to lie about history. To lie out, do all this lying, that's wickedness. Whom the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, which will be us, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So he's going to destroy this place, and he's coming back in full glory. So who is the wicked? Malachi 1:4. Where is Edom, the Edomites, so-called white people today? It ain't just talking about Esau. It's talking about his whole descendant line. We are impoverished, and that's your Europeans, that's your Jewish people, that's your American so-called white people, so-called British. The original British was Jake. Australians and so-called Canadians. Go down the list, man. It says we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus said Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness. That's the wicked. And the people, it ain't talking about just one person. It's talking about the Edomites collective as a nation. So that's a cut on it's just talking about Esau. No, it says the people against whom Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah have indignation forever. Homework assignment. Look up the word indignation. It means righteous anger if you don't believe me. Look it up. Forever. So these devils, they can't hide this truth no more. They probably gonna have to just, they got another lesson I'm working on. How they gonna start requiring. Well, I got to get all the facts straight. But they, in some cases, they feel like you underage. They can make you upload ID to your YouTube account. So be looking out for that. I'm gonna do a lesson on that. Hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. Bahashim Rakak Kwadash Shalom.